Journeys Ahead 2 Lineage Chapter 9 Railway to the Chomping Zone. Written and narrated by T.S. ProArt. We're coming with you! Nock and Kot exclaimed in unison as Void, Jida, and Pofnu were eating lunch within the workshop's kitchen counter. I beg your pardon? Void asked with a curious manner to his voice, while glancing his eyes up towards the strange duo that looked more prepared than ever before. Only at my request, Blue. Jida suddenly stated, while wincing to the slightest cramp within her body. It was a small surge that wasn't anything major, but she knew it to be the early signs that the baby would be there within any given day. It just depended upon when. Guys, you know how dangerous this can be. I appreciate it, but... Void tried to explain once more, before suddenly feeling Jida's finger press itself against his lips. Nope, shush. I've got the talking stick, hot stuff. She stated, while gesturing back to her cousin and his boyfriend. These two need to run some tests on the Thumper, and after what happened this morning, I would really like it if you had more company to watch your back. Wouldn't you agree? Looking Jida in her eyes, Void could see the stare that every husband has to face at one point in their marriage. It was a stare that in the nicest way possible said, no buts. He couldn't blame Jida. He knew somewhere deep down this would happen inevitably. The Thumper, when it worked, was useful at times. Yes, honey. Void at last spoke, making Kot give a, hell yeah! And for Nock to just nod his head. All on your command, pal. He said with a slap to Void's arm, leaving him to just side-eye his wife and Fox daughter, who was violently tearing into a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I just worry about you. The musician stated with a smirk that made Void smile ever so gently in response. I know, honey. I know. Reaching out, Void wrapped his metal arm around his tired wife, as they both watched Nock and Kot climb themselves into the Thumper, the very obviously rickety and unstable Thumper. How long did you have to talk Nock into agreeing? Void asked, as a small mechanic sat in the upper seat, while Kot sat in the lower hatch that looked akin to a jet's cockpit. He agreed when I turned my hair on fire. Jida replied, as Jet walked up and gave the mechanic duo a thumbs up, signifying that they were set for launch. You are scary when you're angry, Void mentioned with a turn that made Jida wink with a small surge of light to her shortened hair curls. Void, welcome back, little bro. Holy! Turning himself around to the sudden heavy sound of footfalls, Core stared in awe as Void entered through his portal with the large mech close behind him. Its 10-foot-tall massive build rattled and jittered, steaming and clicking with rotating gears and buzzing electrical wires. Whoa! Sika gasped in sudden awe as she walked in from around the vat, with Joby clinging onto her back. Well, ain't that just the most depressing piece of machinery I've ever seen? Harmony stated, being the last of the current sparks within the trio's view. Hey, she ain't depressing. She's special. Kot called out as he piloted the legs of the Thumper, while Nock controlled the arms and torso. No, she's kinda right. The little mechanic retorted with a small grunt, as he punched a loose piece of slab metal back into place upon his control deck. Hey guys, got some company with me this time. What's the play? Void asked with a playful shrug, leading the Sika with Joby stepping forwards with a smirk. Just gonna be us and you guys, kiddo, she exclaimed whilst pulling up Earth's map, showing the next conductor to be in a region known as the Upper Frost. These were, as the name implied, Desolate winter wastelands, the coldest of Earth's regions, but also one of the prettiest. See that boy? That's my special guy, Master Conductor Atodis. Seeker revealed with a gesture towards her map, leaving Void to raise a very concerned eyebrow. Wait a second. You're bringing the kid? He rightfully asked with worry. To this, Joey began to rapidly nod her tiny gumball-looking head up and down, while Cor approached from the side. Joey and Sika have been cooped up in the reformatter for quite some time now. We all think it'd be best if they got out and stretched their legs as we continue to work away. In response, Void gave the look of, "Are you serious?" To which Sika quickly reasoned, "Don't worry. This conductor shouldn't have the ability to transform into a monster. It's the weakest of the bunch," she promptly assured while shooting open a golden portal to the frosty landscape. "Think of it like a little baby fish. It won't do much besides stare and have a 2-second memory span." For a short few seconds, everyone looked at each other, feeling rather relieved after what had happened that morning. However, Nock and Cot looked a little bummed. "Well, guess we're only walking through snow," the mechanic said, as Cot made the machine do a little disappointed kick. "Well, can't really complain there. Let's get this over with, team," Void stated as he turned heel and gestured for everyone to follow him. With a quick kiss and hug, Sika and Joby bid farewell to Cor, whilst Nock and Cot slowly marched their way through the other side. "Good luck, fellas! Make sure to keep the kid warm," Harmony shouted with a wave as the group of 5 entered the frosty lands. With a combined leap, Void and his crew made it to the upper frost. With a hard land, they fell upon a stone ledge that overlooked the frosty world. In unison, they all changed their armors and clothes into cozy coats, while Nock and Cot remained warm within their machine. The landscape before them was draped in a thick blanket of pure, glistening snow that sparkled under the pale light of a sun that was obscured by thick pink clouds. Each breath released into the icy air turned into a crystalline mist, swirling like little stars before dissipating into the frigid atmosphere. "Breezes! It's negative 15 degrees! You guys okay?" Not questioned down to the sparks, who all turned with half of their faces concealed in their coats. Even Joby had changed her little outfit into the appropriate attire for such conditions. The ground below was uneven, littered with jagged ice formations that rose like ancient pyres, their surfaces reflecting fragmented rainbows with every shift of the light. Some of these towering structures resembled enormous teeth, while others were like delicate columns adorned with hanging icicles that twinkled softly, creating a haunting melody that echoed through the stillness. The air was crisp, each inhalation filled with the sting of frost and the faint aroma of gasoline from nearby self-driving storage trains that sped throughout the lands. Across the barren plains, patches of shimmering blue crystals emerged from the ground, sprouting like flowers in a garden of ice. They pulsed softly with an inner light, as if imbued with the essence of magic itself. When touched by the nearby animals, they vibrated with a warmth that contrasted sharply with their cold surroundings. "Whew, man, never thought I'd see this place in person. Check it out!" Void shouted with a teeth-chattering smirk as he pointed towards the clouds, where the faint sight of an aurora borealis shimmered through their density. "Pretty!" Joey squealed while Sika brought out her map once again. "Alright, kiddos. We gotta travel 20 miles east. Looks like the conductor is caught in a current. Think we can take one of those trains to avoid wasting a rift or freezing to death?" Sika asked as they eyed one of the trains that was slowing down nearby. "That could work. They're auto locomotives. They go wherever you command them to go. Maybe me and Ka can control one from the back battery cart." Nock exclaimed with a shiver as he used the Thumper's massive arm to point at the train's large power box that rested where the caboose sat. Just tell us where to go and we'll use the Thumper to control it from there, Cod added, leaving the Sparks nodding and looking back to their fancy little transport. Good call bringing your boys, Void, Sika said as she began to trudge through the thick snow to the train. Thank Jida, Void replied as he eyed down the fancy, sleek locomotive with a smirk. With a large pulse and electric surge, Nock and Cot, who were now attached to the back of the train's battery, used the Thumper to guide and manage the locomotive in the right direction. Their little creation had probed several extension rods from its front into the battery's side, which gave them full control of the massive machine. As the train plowed through dense snow, Void, Sika, and Joby sat within the train's front control deck. They were all resting on the floor that had warm, vented air steaming through the seams. It was cozy, gentle, the perfect place to relax after what had already begun to be a long day. Patty cake, baker's man, bake me a cake as fast as you can, both Void and Joby sang, as the two of them clapped and high-fived back and forth, going on and on until failing to keep pace. In an instant, they laughed out loud, resulting in Joby hugging her uncle tightly. You're fun, Uncle Void, she happily stated, making the bigger Spark sigh, pat his niece's head, and then relax in his seat. I try, kiddo. Perking up and looking to his side, Void locked his crystal blue eyes with Sika's ruby red stare that had a faint glow to them. The Sparkette was sitting in a position where she had her right knee up with her right arm atop it, while the rest of her body relaxed against the train's interior wall. Upon her face, she bared a buck-toothed grin that made Void chuckle under his breath. What? He curiously asked. Nothing. It's just... I can't believe you're alive. To her words, Void's smile grew wider as he fully took in Sika's physical details. She hadn't changed a bit. The Sparkette was still as gorgeous and breathtaking as once before. Her red antler horns remained sharp, and her smile was ever contagious. An old friend was all Void could see. Honestly, I can say the same thing about all of you. I was alone for so long. I thought you all had died. I made peace with that years ago, but now, here you are. Void softly replied as he continued to rub Joby's little head, still in a world of awe. You know, Sika, I didn't get a chance to ask, but how did you guys escape? I've noticed the scars, especially Evelyn's and Coxon's. He doesn't even have his legs anymore. Lowering her head with a tiny sigh, Sika gently brushed one of her antler jewels out of her eyes, and then looked back up the Void with a promising story to tell. The school me and Cor worked at was struck down by a lightning bolt. Me, him, Cogson, with Harmony and Lee, who were your age at the time, we luckily survived and made a daring escape. The Sparka began, as Void could almost see the memories playing out within her vision. Along the way, we encountered more of the monsters. Marak lost his legs. We were rescued then by Alice and Evelyn. And then... Sika suddenly paused for a moment, as the events from the bus came crashing into her brain, reminding the Spark of the close call with death they all shared. We were ambushed by a large beast. Cor had his eyes scarred from the attack. Evelyn's face was practically ripped away. But then we were saved by Talos. He led us to a ship, and we were all soon rescued by Matira. Raising an eyebrow to her story, Void cocked his head to the side and asked, Talos saved you? That's shocking. Nodding her head and then leaning it back, Sika looked off to the side and seemed to just stare off into space, thinking about the one-eyed spark. I'm assuming you and him didn't really hit it off the bat. Don't worry. He was like that with us for the first few years too. Sika assured, as Joby at last left Void's arms and returned to her mother's. He told me about what happened. I can't really say I can be upset with him for the way he was acting. I can't imagine what I would do if I lost Jida and Pofnu. With our new baby on the way, I'd honestly enter a dark space too. To the mention of his family, Sika raised her head up a bit and eyed the orange necklace dangling around the blue spark's neck, feeling curious about that section of Void's modern life. Has Jida figured out a name yet? The jolly-looking Sparkette asked with a slight lean forwards. Yeah. If it's a boy, we're gonna call him Jay. If it's a girl, we're gonna call her Jane. She actually allowed me to help decide. Different rules here, you know? Nodding her head, Sika slowly wrapped her arms around Joby while resting her coffee cream-colored cheek atop her striped forehead. Aw, I love those names. However, I am curious. Do you know if the baby will be a naturally born spark like us? Or do you think they'll retain a normal body akin to Jida's? Sika curiously questioned, leaving Void to actually ponder. I have no idea. From what I've felt, they've definitely got natural limbs. They're a kicker. As for how they'll really look, it remains to be seen. I haven't thought about it. Nodding to this, Sika looked down to her own daughter and then ever so gently rubbed her forehead, understanding all too well the uncertainties before parenthood. It was kind of like that with Joby too when she was created. We didn't know what she'd be like, but when she appeared in our arms, we all knew it was going to be alright. Sika assured, as her and Void locked eyes again. Whatever they may be, I know you'll be a great father to them. Congratulations, hon. From her words, all Void could say was a simple, thank you. Before the tender moment was cut off from Nox shouting through the train's internal speaker. Guys, get out here right now! With a hefty push, Void opened an upper hatch that led out onto the train's rooftop. As it swayed, a powerful rush of frozen air and snow slapped him and the Sparkettes in their faces. Deploying their battle helmets, Void and Sika peered out to look back at the mechanic duo, who were now standing upon the battery pack 3 carts down. The Thumper looked bright and shiny within the frozen aura that surrounded them. Yet, it appeared to look alert. What's the matter? Void called with a hand raised to his mask, feeling confused as to what had gotten Nox all shaken up. However, that's when Joby suddenly poked her head out, revealing her eyes and striped birthmark to be glowing a yellow haze. Look! She cried with a point, aiming her finger towards the frozen tundra around the train's ever-changing tracks. They were riding atop a frozen lake, Void realized, when all of a sudden, there came a burst of bright blue light from the near distance. Alongside the shine was the accompanied sound of the ice cracking. Heavy chunks of solidified water went sprawling through the air, joined by waves of once resting snow. Once this haze of debris faded, everyone locked their eyes with something that made their skin crawl. Rising out of the shattering ice was a massive, pale white, blue glowing veined fin. A shark fin that looked to be the height of a small building. Megalodon! Kot shrieked in shock as Void stared with his jaw agape. No, it's the conductor. She's taken form? Sika exclaimed in horror as she watched the fin re-emerge, this time on the other side of the train, closer and looking larger. What? You said it wouldn't do that! Void asked in disbelief, as Nog used the thumper's arms to begin shooting into the ice. That's the thing, it wasn't supposed to! How did it get so massive? The reindeer-looking spark replied as she pulled out her tracker, seeing that the conductor had not been caught in a current. Rather, had been swimming the whole time. Mommy, it must be because of Earth's M count. All the conductors must be feasting. Joey suddenly realized as the head of the matter beast breached the ice, revealing it to have taken on the appearance of a massive great white. We're on ice. Oh, beezus, that thing's gonna sink us! Void shouted with a dreadful thought. Looking back up, he watched on as Nog continued to shoot round after round into the megalodon-looking wannabe, only for it to not be affected in the slightest. Land! We gotta get the land! Turning around, Void could see the faintest outline of tundra in the distance, a hilly slope that was a massive ways off from the lake. Nog, Cot, get us out of here! The blue spark shouted in absolute horror, whilst preparing his electricity for a very possible and deadly fight. Disengaging their assault, the two mechanics turned the thumper around and rammed their control rods back into the battery cart. With a cry in its horn, the train blasted off at full speed, leaving the conductor to follow suit in a hungered rage. Why is it chasing us? Kot shouted aloud, as Void made sure both Joby and Sika were safe and secure within the train. It wants us! Conductors feed off matter! We sparks are literal matter essence taken form! Sika cried out as she held on to Joby, who was now glowing like a nightlight. Well, that explains the last few encounters! Void yelled with a shivering sweat, as the train suddenly swerved and skidded itself to a leftward side. Whoa! Void shouted as he suddenly fell over the ledge, but caught upon an upper rail that was atop the train's roof. Uncle Void! Joey cried from below, just as the sight of the large shark lunged up from the right and clamped down hard upon ice. Oh my god! Nog shouted, while Kot kept an eye on the beast. Rot! He howled in dread, making the short mechanic turn the train once again. The giant shark appeared once more and clamped upon the ice where the locomotive had been momentarily. With the turn, Void was flung back onto the roof, throwing up a dust of snow as his back went first into the frost. Gah! He cried as the mechanic duo went back and forth and side to side, avoiding the large shark that roared with a mighty leap. As the beast splashed back up and down through the ice, the train bounced up and down, screeching along the frozen lake while nearly tripping over. In a panicked state, the mechanic duo did their best to keep the massive machine straight, but struggled to do so all the while. Guys! Void suddenly cried as the shark once again leaped into the air, this time coming down into a nosedive upon the caboose. Eject! Eject! Kot exclaimed in a horrified state while hitting a massive red button within his controller spot. With a blast forwards, both Nog and Kot were suddenly launched out of the thumper. Spiraling forwards, they slammed right in the void, which led to the three of them all crashing into the train's control deck. With one loud crunch and tear, the massive conductor shark tore away the caboose and the next two carts, leaving only the main train piece to stay. The harsh slam, the locomotive landed hard upon the ice, causing sparks and ice to fly. The pieces used to build the track were now gone, leaving only the basic controls intact. Uh-oh! All three of the boys gasped as they watched the shark dive again through a back window. Our thumper! Nog bellowed in dismay, realizing a good amount of his money just suddenly went down the drain. Mom! Joby nervously mumbled as Sika began to look around. Locking her eyes upon the control deck, she first eyed its many buttons and glowing lights, levers and gizmos, before turning her eyes up to see the train's front, slim screen window. Before them, off to the side, was a bunch of icicle shards protruding out from the lake's ledge. In that moment, Sika got an idea. Boys, hold on to my precious angel, the spark had stated as her panel lines began to glow with a red shine, her spark-born gift. Okay. What are you doing? Void questioned as him, Nog, and Kot held on to Joby. Suddenly, the little spark held onto their arms back and shimmered her horns into a bright yellow light that felt to keep them warm. "Just hang on, I'm giving her the juice." As the shark began to appear again, Sika raised a glowing red fist back and punched it so hard into the control deck that her fist went right through it. Suddenly, the large vessel shimmered red and blasted ahead, looking to be engulfed with Sika's spark essence. "Good old power boost! Come on, you hungry boy! Come on!" Like an actual shark smelling blood hitting the water, the conductor arose in a frantic chomping session as the whiff of the energized train met its senses. Going as fast as she could manage, Sika poured all of her usable essence into the locomotive, going faster and faster, until at last nearing the spikes. Right behind, the shark was rising with its jaws open wide, unaware of the trap the Sparkhead had placed. "Brace yourselves!" she cried upon suddenly shifting the train out of the way and into a violent drift. Before Void could even react, he along with the others were thrown against the wall, impacting upon it so hard, he immediately blacked out. Uncle Void? Uncle Void? Opening his eyes to the sensation of tapping upon his mask, Void awoke upon the snow, seeing Joby, Nock, and Cot looking down upon him with worry. "Oh, what happened?" Novison asked as he slowly sat up and retracted his helmet. "Sika pulled a risky maneuver, and we were all launched out of the train's side that is now toppled over on its side in half." Cot stayed while pointing at the broken train to avoid shock, leaving the spark to jolt up. "Whoa, what?" From his cry of confusion, Void then snapped his head to the other side and gasped in disbelief at what he was seeing. Impaled from within its open mouth and through the back of its head was the Matter Shark, stabbed mid-bite from the ice spikes. Like the other conductors, the beast had begun to fade, while Sika approached the group with the conductor and her extractor. "All according to plan," she stated. "Losing my thumper was not what I would call according to plan," Nock gruffed, as he now stood shivering in the snow. "Hey, don't sweat it, bud. We can rebuild her, bigger and better," Cot said, trying to be optimistic, but Nock was looking rather unimpressed with the given circumstances. Looking down at himself, Void watched as Joby, with glowing yellow light to her hands, gripped them upon his right arm, which looked to heal a broken wound to its normal state. "What the? Light matter?" Void quietly asked, just as the little one let go and giggled. "There, all better," she said, leaving Void a tad dumbstruck. "What was?" he began to ask, when Sika suddenly started the ramble. "Not good. Not good, not good. Not good at all," she said, looking back to the others. "This is getting bad. If this little firefly can become something of that nature, there's no telling what the others can do." Slowly standing up with the help of the others, Void eyed Sika down, who looked back with a nervous glowing red stare, telling him that going forwards, it was only going to get harder. "Where to next?" he asked. "Home. You need rest," Nock stated with a sigh, as they all stood still in the freezing cold weather while pondering what were the other conductors going to be like.